On my heart and my heart and my mood, three arms that could reach o'er the sea. My feet might be big, but the insects are safe. They'll never get stood on by me.
Harmless is really a celebration of a certain kind of Scotsman. The guy that you see walking down the street with his mother, they're usually good to their mothers. Unmarried, late 30s, early 40s, no discernible dress sense. He's not a genius, he's good at woodwork. Social skills, maybe a wee bit lacking. They usually carry the shopping. He's a nice lad. He's good to his mother. He's harmless.
I send a 50, but 3 in the drawer.
See, Harmless is autobiographical.
That's a good start.
Are you harmless in any way?
Yeah, I am actually. Well, no. I can be cheeky. I can be impudent. Harmless people are not impudent because that hurts people.
I do what I'm told, and I tidy my room, and then I come down for my tea.
The creator of the alternative national anthem, Michael Marra, he in doubts about whether he personally qualifies as harmless. And according to singer Barbara Dixon and writer Liz Lochhead, he's probably right.
I just think he's probably the cleverest person I've ever met, and that's bar nobody. You know, I've met some pretty clever people in my life, but Michael connects more different things together than anybody I know. He's an actual inspiration, and so I like to find any excuse to work together with Michael, just so that I can get a wee injection of that kind of good creativity. He does inspire.
He's massively creative, probably much more creative than anybody I know. I mean, he's got a sort of touch of Burns in him, hasn't he? He can see through all sorts of pompousness and artifice.
But he's not averse to adding a bit of artifice, not to mention comic fabrication, to his public persona, maybe as a way of deflecting attention from his intensely private side. We know for a fact that he's married to Peggy. His son Matthew and daughter Alice play in a band called the Hazy Janes, and he himself is the son of a school teacher and printer whose family roots are in the predominantly Irish part of Dundee called Lochee. But neither he nor his Dundonian doppelganger Andy Pells place biographical accuracy in the high priority category.
Michael is a multi-talented man. He's an artist, he's a songwriter, he's a performer, he's a backwoodsman. One of Michael's strong loves in life is the backwoods. Michael and I used to, when we were younger, used to frequently hang about Blairgowrie after dark and generally build fires, a bit of pyro on the riverbank. He's a sculptor. He went through a carving kind of phase where he was carving unusual artifacts. And then there's one particular tree on the banks of the River Erich, not far from Blairgowrie, to this day is still festooned with Michael Marra early sculptures.
I happen to have here your biography for the show A Wee Home from Home. It says, Michael Marra was born in Limassol, Cyprus, immediately after the Second World War. A son of fishing people, he studied both classical dance and horse racing, paying for his tuition by working as a comedian and van boy.
I remember one of the Polydor once said, this burly former priest. No, biographies, I don't know. People don't need your biographies, they need your songs.
If you want to go out walking, I will sweep the street. I'll scan the horizon for malcontents of less than heavenly witness. I'll be 3 men in grey suits, looking upwards and downwards and all around 'cause I'll shield and protect you. I'm here to defend you. If you feel like dancing, I'll be by your side with a big band, a fountain, an aerodrome and moonlight. All will be well. You may do as you please. No harm will befall you while I live and breathe.
All Will Be Well, which Michael wrote for his sister Mary when she was going through a hard time. Something personal that becomes universal. It's the song I play when my spirit needs uplifting. All Will Be Well. His brother Chris plays guitar in that song and takes us back to their school days. Harmless. Yeah, I'm joking.
I think he was quite wild. I think we both were. The three before us, Eddie, Mary and Nicky, were more the academic type. By the time I got to secondary school, Michael had been there 5 years before and had sort of left a trace.
In what way?
Well, the teachers all knew him. Some of them actually liked him, but a lot of them didn't.
I was an underminer. I was every teacher's nightmare, quietly undermining everything. Even to the point I remember I organised a squad of my classmates, who I still see regularly, and we dismantled the class, brought in screwdrivers and stuff like that, and actually took all the desks apart, just enough to leave them standing when we left the room. And that's what I put my mind to.
You must have been a big disappointment to your mum, who's a school teacher.
Yes, I was actually.
But was another biography that said he had been expelled from Lawside Academy at the age of 14 true or false?
Unfortunately, it is true, yes.
So what happened?
Truancy, really, was what I was expelled for. I really have a big thing about control of my time. Which many people may have, but I'm a bit of an extremist. I have strange social habits and all, you know, I can avoid a lot of things. And I do not like anybody being in control of my time or deciding what it is, you know, even the topics that we're going to be thinking about. So that, very early, was a drawback at school.
How early did this manifest itself?
Well, I got a bad review for one of my compositions when I was primary 6. I was writing a thing about somebody on a bus in Lochee meeting Cilla Black. The bairn said, "Look at her, she's dead like Cilla Black, is she?" And the teacher underlined it in red and put very instead of dead. So I think from there on, there was definite trouble between me and teachers.
Let me tell you about my education. Plenty of books and the mug was free, but I had the added complication. A few years old, I was 5'3". Your easy can is out in the playground, sticking out at the back of the line. Maybe I couldn't attend my lace, but I could carry them all crates 3 at a time. Woodward, helping the Janet. Woodward, packing the tea. Woodward, helping the Janet. You big lad, won't you come with me?
One of Marra's collaborative songs, Woodward, from the Word on the Pavey album, with the Dundee legend and patron saint of Scotland, St Andrew. He raises serious doubts about the authenticity of Marra's skill CV so far.
Well, Billy, there's generally a lot of debate about that as well, where Michael was actually skilled. I ken that he got his quality, and there's an unconfirmed rumour that suggests he maybe even got an O-level or that, whilst a pupil at Sky High, or as Michael puts it, Sky High, were also led to believe that he got some kind of diploma in topiary, whilst at Oban University. But that's as much as I can.
It was just general mischief, really. But I think there are a couple of bits of destruction still around the town that Michael may have had something to do. Yes. Yeah, Queen Victoria, I think.
I never knew him when he got expelled, but I did hear the stories. The stuff did filter back even as far as the Mikeys.
Tell me.
Well, there was a bit of an incident in the Albert Square where Queen Victoria's statue seemingly got covered in paint. Now, we believe that certain paint thrower might have been one and the same Mr. Mitch Porgy, as he was known at that time.
So, did he have a reputation as being a wild boy?
No, I wouldn't say wild. I just think it's just a wee bit different.
Were you one of the boys, or were you regarded as slightly eccentric then?
No, I was one of the boys because I played football. I was fast, I had good ball control. So I had that connection with the boys. My pals were all into music as well. In fact, there was a thing that happened in the playground. There's a few guys standing in the playground at St Mary's Lochie, and the question was, what are you going to do? And the boys went, I'm going to play for the Celtic. You know, right, so am I. Yep. And then it came to me, and I said, I'm going to be a songwriter. So the boys gave me a strange look, but at that moment, one of the other guys, John Duncan, his name was, he suddenly said, my uncle's a songwriter, taking the heat off me immediately. So the boys turned to him and said, oh, who is that? And he says, Stephen Sondheim. And the guys said, never heard of him. Now, I hadn't heard of him either. Maybe 2 years after that, I heard West Side Story. Turned out it was true. But it made it not seem like a ridiculous thing to say, and otherwise it would have been, because the way those boys were looking at me, next thing I was going to get was a smack in the mouth, you know, just for not wanting to play for the Celtic in the first place.
King Kong's visit to Glasgow. Does Caroline Patterson have a shamrock on her thigh?
Well, you'll have to ask Caroline. Who knows?
What's the background to that?
Well, I was working with Caroline at Dundee Rep, and the Fairly Mighty Work, it was, your own play. And she doesn't sleep well, or at that time anyway, she was saying that she didn't sleep well, and that she kept getting these kind of really vivid dreams in that kind of half sleep. And in one of them, King Kong turned up in Glasgow, and she was his little pal. Like, King Kong needs that little fair-haired girl, you know, and Caroline was it. And I thought, that's just great. These should be our waking thoughts, you know. So it was a present for Caroline. That's what it was, to help her get to sleep.
Kong's up in Red Road, wants to mend his ways. He's using fistfuls of jumbo jets to wipe the tears from his face. Enter an angel with a shamrock on her thigh, and a liking for great big monkeys with tears in their eyes. She says, come and see the Celtic, you will love the way they play. But if this old team is to flourish, don't kill McStay. She repeated to him, you don't kill McStay.
Her mother was a singer, she sang in choirs. And my father was a music fan, he used to listen to classical music and jazz. So there was always noise around the house. My eldest brother Eddie played the piano, Michael played the guitar, sang, I played the guitar. So there was always a racket going on. People say when they passed the house it was always rocking.
One of Michael's finest songs tells the story of another member of his family.
There is a place out in the Yukon, and lying there a shipwright's bones. By his side his Argent compass, and by his feet there is a carling stone. Lying by his feet there is a carling stone. Fountain pen.
Our father's uncle, Francis Clark, he helped build the Discovery in Dundee. I think after an unhappy marriage, he jumped on the ship and started doing the runs to Canada, and eventually disappeared off one of these ships. So we don't know what happened to him, but Michael made up a story as to what may have happened.
Fare thee well, brave Uncle Francis. When the snowflakes fall, I won't sing the blues. And when I think of how you left this world, I will remember how the world left you.
I had been marvelling at Loudon Wainwright's work. He'd been writing about his family. He'd been writing very personal stuff. And I found it kind of overwhelming because I never do that kind of thing. Whenever I use the word I in my songs, it means the character that is speaking. It's never anything at all to do with me, who must be left out, because he'll cause trouble. Now, Loudon Wainwright writing about his family, and he wrote about it so honestly and so well that there's benefit for other people. Now, I thought, how would my family react if I was to bear some of our trouble in order that other people might learn something from it? And the subject was going in the huff, which we have been guilty of, one way and another. So I wrote this thing about my great-uncle, who had actually been quietly ostracised from the family because he'd had an unhappy marriage. And eventually he died and was buried in the Yukon, and they were in the huff with him when he died. So that was the big thing. That's unacceptable, I think. And if you have fallen out with members of your family, you have to fix it.
Between the earth and the sky above, there must be a twinkling seam of love. Summon up the drums of the blackness foundry, blend Matty the Mackay twins too. We'll sing it up from the Overgate to Anchorage, place a coal upon the fire for you. We'll place a precious coal upon the fire for you.
I love Great Uncle Francis. Today in Dundee, I couldn't see the word Overgate without thinking of Great Uncle Francis from Overgate to Anchorage. You know, those kind of lines, they stick really in your mind. I think Michael's a great songwriter because lines stick and sing themselves away in your own head.
When I think of how you left this world, I will remember how the world left.
The Marras were a bit like that, to be honest. I found him a bit strange, as in my father's side of the family. He didn't seem to be like that. He was very... he's quite an emotional man. They seemed a bit distant, a bit disengaged, I would say. They didn't get on well with each other. I remember going to a party, and it was the first time for years I'd seen all of my father's family in the room together, and they were all sitting shaking. It was a big emotional moment for them. They just found it very difficult to handle. But then that's my father's side of the family. This is my mother's side of the family as well. And they were more gregarious, they were more fun. They were actually a great family. I remember at my mother and father's silver wedding, my uncle Nicky, my father's brother, doing a speech and talking about my mother's family and saying that them as a family learned a lot about how to work as a family, how to help each other from watching my mother's family.
The Rileys were Irish too, and one of Michael's early memories is taking the Irish boat from the Broomy Law and finning it hoaching with Wheel Kent characters for Lochie High Street. Now, regarding Fitba, kenning that Dundee United started life as Dundee Hibernian and loving his song about Hamish McAlpine, the legendary United keeper, I presumed that the boy Marra supported the Tangerines or the Celtic. But no, because he grew up in that dark and distant time when Dundee FC were a power in the land. Hard to believe.
I remember I met Gianni Rivera in the Nethergate. Me and Alfie Bremer, we shook his hand. Saw Dundee beating FC Cologne 8-1. Our man was Alan Galzine. He was like a saint to us. Came from Cooperangus. Strode like a colossus over Tullybackert. And that was a fabulous team. But my brother Nicholas was a United supporter, and we went to Tannadice with him. He came to dance with us. You know, obviously there was badgering eyes involved to quite a fierce extent, but at the same time, not the Glaswegian thing, nothing negative associated with football for us.
Up at Tannadice, framed in woodwork, cool as ice, keeping out the wolf in his particular way. A smile and a wave are miraculous, if they say. Out runs Hamish and the ball's in Invergowrie Bay.
I found myself at a match at Tannadice. United were playing FC Monaco. I was there with Gus Foy, and in the stand was Grace Kelly. She was wearing a white turban. She looked beautiful. which was sitting behind a bollard which said Taylor Brothers Coal. And the word got round, you know, and you could see it from a distance because the white turban, Dundee women generally didn't wear white turbans, and there was Grace Kelly among us.
I remember that time it was an evening game, and tie in the howling rain. Gus Foy pointed to the side of the goal and said, "There's Grace Kelly by Taylor Brothers Coal in Tannadice."
So, we've got the Fitba and the family. But to find out what happened after school, I confronted him with another biography.
Message boy in the printing trade, apprentice sparky with R.S. Kilpatrick, Albert Square, apprentice baker, builder's labourer. Were you all of these things?
I was.
You're not very big and strong looking for somebody who's a builder's labourer.
No, but I am wary, and it was never a matter of lifting huge girders. And also I was taught how to find the centre of gravity and never to double lift.
Right.
So, same as working with good actors, I worked with good labourers.
In 1971, though, he formed his first band, Hen's Teeth. And a few years later, he was a full-time musician with the Dundee legends Skeets Bolivar. Brother Christopher recalls a sedate gig in the Highlands.
Strathpeffer Spa was great, where we would be standing playing and people would fall down. They were so drunk. The bouncers would come and gently lift them up, take them outside and put them on the steps outside. So by the end of the night, the dance hall was empty and the steps outside were absolutely full of people lying on the ground. It was fabulous.
Taking the next train home, following lines that I followed before. Taking the time alone. Honey, when you're leaving, would you close my door?
Michael and Barbara Dixon singing the chorus of Taking the Next Train Home from his debut album on Polydor, The Midas Touch, produced by Bernard Theobald in 1980.
I think Bernard's take on it was that all Michael needed was a bit of sort of smoothing out. He was like one of those Chinese temple dogs, you know, the ones with all the wrinkles. And I think Bernard thought, well, if we can iron out the wrinkles, everybody will see that he is the new whatever. The new Phil Collins, the new Eric Clapton, the new Randy Newman. Whatever pop music would have possibly made him into, he could have been the new one.
From very early on, though, Michael felt compromised by the music business, especially when a music critic friend suggested the reason he had been signed by Polydor in the first place.
I was signed by Polydor because they had actually wanted Jerry Rafferty, but they couldn't get him. That's why they signed me. And I remember the first time that he said that, I thought, nah, I don't think so. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, it makes sense. And I remember Loudon Wainwright maintains that he got his first record deal because Bob Dylan fell off his motorbike. And the more you find out about the music business and how limited their imaginations are, then, you know, these things are true.
Yet for Barbara and the musicians who worked on the album, there was nothing but support for Marra's work. They recommended his songs to other artists, so you get his songs recorded by Kiki Dee, Leo Sayer, June Tabor and Barbara Dixon. Did she feel that he could have made it big if he'd been able to compromise?
There's a one-word answer to that, and it's yes. A resounding yes. If he had gone for it, he probably would have got there, but something in the whole process bothered him. I think he saw himself sort of mutating into a can of beans, and he didn't want to be a can of beans. I think he felt he would lose control.
I don't actually remember falling out with Bernard. It just became very, very obvious that we were poles apart, and it was like we came from opposite ends of the planet. It was interesting. I mean, I got to work with a lot of great people. In fact, that was the last record that I made where I said, well, I want an orchestra for this. There was no question. They got Del Newman to do the arrangement, and they brought the orchestra in, and these things all happened. There were funds involved. Ever since that album, every subsequent record has been a battle, fighting for everything, stealing studio time, conning musicians out of money, anything that it takes to get the record made is what it's been since. But that one, that was pretty luxurious.
Luxurious or not, the boy was in the first train home, developing his solo career and expanding his songwriting credentials. There was even a brief flirtation with a wee band called ABBA.
Aye. Well, Bernard Theobald used to hang out with Andrew Lloyd Webber and Benny Anderson, people like that. So he persuaded Bjorn Ulvaeus, the ABBA songwriter, to hire me as a lyricist. And at the time I was working in Edinburgh. I was in 3 different shows in the Edinburgh Festival. And I hadn't been eating, I can't eat before or after shows. So I hadn't been eating for about a fortnight or something. And I remember thinking, well, I'm going to die anyway, so I better do the ABBA job and leave some money for the family, give them a chance instead of all this stuff I've been writing that doesn't make money. So I went to Dunkeld, my family had a hideout up there. I got the music from Bjorn Ulvaeus, and it was mathematical, I had to work out lyrically, everything right on the dot, and I kept departing from it because I'm not used to working with anybody else with their music for a start, and phrasing I'm pretty particular about, and I found it really, really hard work. And each evening I phoned him from the phone box outside Neil Gow's cottage, and I would run the tape and sing along with it. And he would say, "You are departing from the tune." My sense of humour obviously had no effect on him whatsoever. So anything I tried to get absurd wasn't understood. And his English wasn't all that great. And my Swedish is really very basic. So I finished the job. I handed it in there. I never wanted to hear about it again.
Michael already had an individual musical style, but lyrically had still to find his own voice. His reading of Scottish history and literature was crucial to his development.
General Grant's visit to Dundee. Now that was written after reading John Preble's The Highgirders, where he gives an account of the occasion in that. Now that song itself, when I finished that, I remember I finished up in Pitlochry, and I thought I was on to something. In fact, I knew I was. I decided that this would really annoy Polydor and Bernard Theobald in particular. I kind of got into trouble for putting in little Scottish expressions here and there in the songs, and the Scottishness was definitely considered a problem. I certainly was not going to be the last Scottish act to be elocuted. That's the kind of thing that happened in the past. My Scottishness was a problem. Now, the General Grant song, when I took that into Bernard, I reckoned that it was a good song. But the reaction to it was, well, what on earth are we supposed to do with this? How do we sell this?
When U.S. Grant paid a visit to my hometown, they spruced it up with a lick of paint, and they showed him round. 2 bands played, fierce competition as the rain fell down. What a pretty little bandstand and a lovely little steeple, what charming little houses and such cheerful little people. But what a mighty long bridge to such a mighty little old town.
I met Michael in 1983 when he came up to Aberdeen to play the first alternative music festival. And it was about the time that Gales Blue was coming out, which was all the Scottish themed songs. So I made the mistake of saying to them, well, you'd be pleased to have got all these Scottish themed songs out of your system. It's something I'm not too proud of how I said to him.
Did he bite your head off when you said that?
He did a wee bit. But we've remained friends ever since.
Michael Craig, who has an internet fan discussion group, Marra Musings, with members in Scotland, Japan, Italy, Canada and America. Closer to home, the Mairns trilogy, A Scots Queer, by Lewis Grassic Gibbon, inspired 2 of the finest songs on the Gales Blue album.
Hopton Mist is taken from an incident in Lewis Grassic Gibbon's Sunset Song, where Ewan Tavendale, Chris Guthrie's husband, goes away to the First World War and finds himself dreaming back to the hills round about Arbuthnot for the family farmers, and just wanders away from the battlefront, is accused of desertion and is eventually shot, executed for doing that. And Hopton Mist just encapsulates that incident in the book, a great anti-war song.
Through the flash and cannon's roar, I saw my Christine smiling eyes, and with no more thought of blood or shell, I made my way to hold her near. But truth and honor's henchmen found me leaving here. A madman's rave, a coward's grave for the volunteer.
I immediately then read Cloud Howe and wrote Monkey here for the woman's perspective, Chris Guthrie. She was refusing to have a child to the man she subsequently married.
Wounded and lonely, but stronger and clear. No coward to flinch, no traitor to fear. This monkey hair that turned to fair skirts the brow of passion's furrow. There she cries, let no man's lies move through my home, and that to my sorrow.
That's what Monkey is about protecting yourself against hurt. Move through my womb and add to my sorrow. If you're going to have burns, you're going to have pain. No avoiding that. A beautiful thing to write a song about, and again, it's a song about one woman, but it goes around the world.
Encasing my heart in monkey hairs.
Monkey Hair, sung by Arlene Gowans.
There I could see that good writers were leading me into things that I had to think seriously about and making a really huge change in my work. In fact, because if you compared the Midas Touch to Gales Blue, they're really real opposites. It kind of looks to me like I didn't know what I was up to. And the first record, I was just learning, lyrically it's embarrassing. But then once I got into the stuff which was literature, led, then I started getting something that's really interesting.
Michael also became the stalwart of a thriving theatre scene in Dundee, acting and writing songs for community drama events such as Witch's Blood. I remember when we did the Fairly Mackey work at the Rep. Even in rehearsals, he had everyone in thrall with the intensity of his music. In recent years, he's joined forces with Liz Lochhead to tour a show called In Flagrant Delict. I caught their soundcheck at Dundee Rep. Liz recalled her first reaction to Michael when he performed with dancer Frank McConnell in a show called A Wee Home from Home.
With the wind and rain.
I just was absolutely knocked out. I just fell in love. I just thought both the songs and also Michael himself as an actor just absolutely knocked me out. And it was a good few years later than that I managed to persuade him that we should try and do a wee review together, just seeing how his songs would go with some poems and some characters. It was January, and a gay dreich day the first day I went to the school. So my mum happed me up in my good navy blue nap coat with a red tartan hood, burled a scarf around my neck, hood on my pig. I think both Michael and I have got a wee streak of kind of old-fashioned showbiz in us. Things that we remember from being wee. His love of, say, Danny Kaye songs and things like that. Things that are from lots of different cultures, a lot of it American or popular culture, but that we've got our own Scottish take on. It was wonderful to kind of work together and just see what would fit.
I was very fortunate working in the theatre. I worked with good people right from the start. I've been lucky.